It's talk time. The fall in the price of oil has seen the Naira falling to record lows. In a bid to stabilize the currency, the central bank has come up with strict foreign exchange policies that have affected the official window, but not the parallel market. Within the last week, the Naira has been trading for between 290 to more than 300 Naira to the dollar. We're going to be looking at this and the way forward for the currency. Public affairs analyst Galtima Lehman is here with me in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, thanks for joining us on the show. Now, let's begin with Emefiele's visit to the Senate, where he actually told the Senate on Tuesday that the U.S. harsh monetary policies and our over-dependence on foreign goods are the reasons why the Naira is taking a free fall.
Part of it. Not all, not quite comprehensive, if you saw the trend prior to the ascension of the Buhari presidency, that was an election year, and then therefore there was a lot of spending going on, But most importantly, it was a war economy, so to say, insurgency. So a lot of procurement of arms. You remember there was even demand for about $1 billion,
to procure arms.
And so it had created a lot of waste instead of spending on butter and all that. So it puts a lot of pressure on the local economy. Meanwhile, the U.S., as I said in other discussions, it's a currency that it's required for shipping transactions. It's a currency that is required for all the oil and gas transactions worldwide. Now, so the totality of the value of your currency, several other factors come into play. As I was given an example about the election, and there was a lot of procurement of all these election issues here and there, as you've seen it even in the ongoing corruption case and all that kind of thing. And it's the foreign exchange reserve that you draw. As you are drawing your foreign exchange, you're also, reducing the value because you are now spending it on conspicuous consumption, not production. So that's one part. Another part was that you were also procuring bullets instead of butter. And so also that affects your currency. And then most importantly, you have the new administration coming in with a single currency, or what do you call it, a single treasury account. The idea is, to make it extremely very difficult for you to access the foreign exchange. Because a lot of the foreign exchange that you saw float in the market, the NNPC foreign exchange and all this were all, compromised to foreign exchange. So the government is trying to keep it in check to, see how was it even acquired? Because if you recall, the NNPC had several accounts, and fraudulent activities were going on here and there. So it's absolutely important that we factor all this, to come to terms as to what constitutes the value of the currency. But most importantly, as I said earlier on, when the other trading partner is quite stronger, it's like a super weight, like a heavyweight versus while they are putting their house in order. I'm talking about the USA.
Yeah, the US.
Exactly. Barack Obama doing extremely very well in terms of even creating more jobs and all that kind of thing. And again,
and looking for other sources of energy.
Apart from that, whatever transactions that go worldwide vis-a-vis shipping, you credit the U.S. Reserve for this Federal Reserve. Whatever oil and gas transactions take place, you still credit the U.S. Foreign Reserve as it is. So whether or not the economy is working vis-a-vis a developing country currency that is actually not convertible, you see a lot of difficulties with the Naira in a But it's a short-term hiccup.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you, because it does
not a free fall.
Yes. It's a temporary problem that we're facing now. And well, I do recall that Emefiele, during the same chat, did say that in 2 years, things should be looking up for the Naira.
2 years is even too long. If you saw the response from the diplomatic community, to the positive response, I'm talking about in terms of the keenness to support Buhari's presidency. And if you have also seen worldwide reception, to the fact that, yes, they expect that Mr. Integrity has come. So you're going to see a lot of investors coming in. And when they come, they will begin to look for, demands of the Naira and all that. So part of the thing is now they're aggregating. And I'm sure that what the economic planners are thinking of is now we aggregate, we prioritize, therefore. instead of buying biscuits and all this toothpick and all that kind of thing. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let me go to my guest, Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Obadiah Mailafia. Good morning to you, and good to have you again. That's of course, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank. We have to get it right there. Do you agree that whatever pains we're going through now are temporary, in the light of the events that may have led to this free fall that we see now? Like my guest in the studio has listed the arms procurement, and of course it was an election year where so much dollar, was just flying everywhere.
Well, good morning, Nigeria. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, indeed, it is a temporary crisis, and the word here is crisis, because the trend has been for a secular fall in the exchange rate of our currency. But we have to be very careful. We must be very prudent to ensure that this temporary situation does not continue to get worse, because then it could get more complicated. Yes, indeed, there were many factors that have been involved. My colleague over there with you is right in suggesting that the political electoral cycle in which we found ourselves during Q3, basically from Q3, this third quarter of 2014 to the first quarter of 2015, where the economy was massively dollarized.
Yes.
And the dollarization is the word here, because the politicians stopped spending Naira, they were spending dollars. And it was dollars and dollars galore. If you bastardize your currency in this manner, from the highest official levels, why should investors have confidence in your currency? Of course, they will not have confidence in your currency. It is also true that, of course, there were geopolitical challenges. There was massive uncertainty in the country. One way or the other, people anticipated a political crisis. So there was capital flight. People took their money and ran. And when they take their money and run, of course, it affects the value of our exchange rate. Of course, we can't avoid the fact that there were global oil prices falling, the slowdown in China, who's a major trading partner for us, and also, funnily enough, the paradox of American recovery, thanks to President Obama's ingenuity. The American economy has recovered. The Federal Reserve was now going out of unconventional monetary policies. And recently, for the first month, they decided to raise interest rates, which put additional pressure on the Naira, because that is the main foreign exchange currency that we normally use for our international transactions. So it was bound to put very heavy pressure. Lastly, and this is something that nobody talks about, there's what I call also the X factor, the unknown factor. If you put it in a simple algebraic equation, there's that X factor that you are not very sure. You have to sit down and do some calculations in order to understand precisely what the value of this and the quantum of this X factor is. And that is manipulation.
Okay.
Today, in the advanced industrial economies, you have what you call hedge funds. These are highly speculative financing vehicles, and also private equity funds. Like, I don't want to mention some of them, because some of them have assets of over $1 trillion. And the transactions in oil, they can sit down and actually speculate. They call it hedging. They can do hedging on the price of oil that they are going to deliver in 6 months' time. Yes. If a few of them, unknown to us, decide to work together and say, "Hey, let's manipulate the price of oil over the next 6 months and push it to the lowest levels possible. At the same time as American fracking is pumping a lot of oil into the economy, and now they've approved American oil can now be sold elsewhere, and America now becoming the world's biggest potential oil exporter, ahead of Saudi Arabia, ahead of Russia, exporter, yes, potentially. And at a situation where from 2014, they also stopped buying our oil unilaterally, without proper explanations, in my view. You would imagine that somebody somewhere really wants to strangulate Nigeria.
Absolutely.
So Nigerians must be intelligent.
Yes.
We must be wise.